It's Thursday, April 18th, bringing you a Big Bass fishing report. Sorry it's so late. I was having some technical difficulties with my phone the last 2 nights. I could not get it to record for any longer than 5 minutes. And I get to talking and it goes a lot longer than 5 minutes, so I had to get that fixed. Either way, we're good now. So this is Thursday before the Big Bass. It's this weekend. They're expecting 32 to 3,600 anglers out there, trying their luck for $100,000 fish, and then along with a lot of other checks throughout the day. Both days, every 2 hours, they pay back quite about, I think, 35 spots. So it's there's a lot of anglers out there, but there's a lot of opportunities to win some money, at least your money back, or get a check, or whether. And then there's some other special incentives. I don't know, exact 3, exact 4. I know Justin Swass with E-Factor has a 3-pound 16-ounce. He's giving some money for that. There's a couple other things you can check, but either way, the lake's fishing pretty good right now, actually real good. Fish are in different stages of the spawn, basically. This is the time of year they all have to come shallow eventually, and that's right now. I'm seeing fish, spawning fish way in the backs, just inside some of these little spawning pockets. I've seen quite a few this week. But I'm also seeing a lot of staging fish. I would say more staging fish than I am seeing bedding fish. So that's good. That means there's fish out on main lake stuff coming in. There's fish just inside main lake on staging banks, a little steeper bank, bigger rock stuff. And then there's fish back in spawning pockets in the backs around pea gravel, gravelly mix of some sort. So you can mix it up throughout the day. If you're seeing a lot of boats in the backs, stay out. If you're seeing fish, or people fishing, whatever, you can switch up and do different things throughout the day. Early morning before it gets rough, and especially this weekend, we got a little cold front coming. It's real warm today. We're supposed to get some rain and storms. We didn't get it. It went north of us. We were out this morning, just checking some things one more time, and everything's pretty much setting up kind of how I expected. This morning we went out threw a spinnerbait out on main lake points. Didn't get any this morning doing that. Didn't stick with that very long. We went just inside main lake points on some staging banks. And that seemed today to be definitely the deal. There was a lot more fish out there. Caught a couple nice ones, a couple that would definitely cash checks in the bash. And they were just inside main lake on some ledgy stuff. And kind of how I would approach it if I was you guys, a couple different things. Obviously, I would throw a spinnerbait out on main lake points, bluff ends, bluff pockets, steeper banks, and spinnerbaits. There's a lot of different versions of spinnerbaits. I think a lot of it's just getting it in front of them, around close to them. I usually probably start with a 3/4 ounce spinnerbait of some sort. This is just a custom one I had made. It's just a 3/4 ounce, got some chartreuse on it, got a 5.5 willow and a number 4 or number 3 gold Colorado. Kind of got the shad colored skirt, and I'll throw that right up to the bank on main lake points, main lake bluff ends, and just kind of reel about 2 foot down. Do a few retrieves like that. If nothing, I'll let it go a little further, and then as a kind of a last resort, I'll slow roll it with the contour of the bottom. Sometimes you get a little cold front in the spring. Some of these fish will just kind of either back out and suspend down a little bit deeper, or they may go lay on the bottom down there 10-12 foot. And if you slow roll a spinnerbait by them, that may get them to come out and grab it. So that's that spinnerbait. Another one I really like this time of year is a big Colorado blade. This is a big number 5 Colorado blade, chartreuse white. A lot of vibration, a lot of thump. A lot of times on the dirtier water, that works real good. Fishing back on flats, You know, spinnerbait, obviously you don't have to throw it on main lake. You can go to the very backs, especially up any of the river arms. You get these big root wides, lay downs, shallow brush, docks that are halfway on the bank, and you know the deep end's only in about 4 foot of water. Slow roll that thing right along the side of it, burn it by there, just change the retrieve. That works really good for that. And then another one I like to throw, especially in dirty water or real cloudy conditions, low light. This is actually an E-Factor spinnerbait, half ounce. You can see I've thrown it quite a bit. Thing holds up real good. Got the paint wore off of that from dragging through them rocks. But I run a trailer hook on it, obviously number 3 trailer hook. But this has got chartreuse double willow blades. It's real good for that stained, little dirtier water, maybe in the backs of these creeks or back in up some of these river arms. You want to go up there and fish real shallow. The half ounce will work real good. Just bring it by, you know, shallow cover, like out on these flats, and maybe 4 foot of water, and you got some brush out there, like I said, logs or trees or whatever. Just reel that thing over the top of it a couple times, and then reel it over it, kill it, let it go down. You know, slow roll it up over the top of it. And sometimes it takes 3, 4, maybe 6 casts past a target to get that fish to probably come up. A lot of these fish will spawn right up against a laydown or logs or root wide or, you know, something big, concrete, big boulder. And if you bring it by them a few times, maybe the first time they don't really see it as a threat, but about the 6th, 7th time you bring it by, now they're starting to pay attention, and they're going to either come up and eat it or come up and chase it and grab it and move it. And that's why, you know, spinnerbait's so effective around this time. Other moving baits that are working good, catching a lot of big fish, is just a chatterbait. This is a Picasso chatterbait, got real nice hooks, just more of a bluegill kind of pattern. It's got a little swim bait on the back, a little reaction innovation swim bait, a little chartreuse on that. And it's the same thing, it's just a kind of a reaction bite. You can see the paint's all wore off of that too from bumping into little bigger rocks. I like to throw this where you got a rock mixture, like, I don't know, basketball size down to baseball size, and reel it and stop it, and reel it and stop it, and let it, almost like a crankbait, kind of hit them rocks and bounce and deflect off of them, and it, you know, it's moving, it's vibrating, and a lot of times it'll just get a reaction bite even when they're not feeding. That's a great bait just to cover a lot of water. Just like the spinnerbait, you know, you can choose to kind of cover a lot of water and just get one fish that's trying to eat, and cover a lot of water and increase your odds. So chatterbait, it's catching some good fish. Other moving baits, if it's you know, you want to fish main lake stuff, obviously a swim bait like the Chad Shad, made by Spro. That's probably my favorite one there. It's looks like a big gizzard shad. It's, for the money, I'd say this is the best one you can get. It's fairly reasonable priced, and it holds up real good. And that, you're going to throw that same deal out on them points, bluff ends, pockets, even through like spawn in pockets. Just throw it right down through the middle. Another place that's really productive is alongside these big docks where a lot of crappie hang up underneath these docks. If you let that sink down about 5 foot below your dock and just retrieve that thing right alongside that, where them big bass are kind of hanging around feeding on some of these crappie, and you get this thing close to them, they're going to come out and grab it. In the last week or two, we've caught several fish. Caught one over 6, a couple heavy 4s, a 5, and we were crappie fishing. So basically what that's telling me is we actually had, I didn't, Denise said, a crappie hooked, bring it to the boat, and almost to the boat, and a big bass chase that thing all the way back to the boat. So it pretty much tells you those bass are eating and feeding around them big crappie schools. So those big swim baits are real effective alongside some of them docks. And you can start that on main lake and go halfway back in these creeks or coves, just swimming along every single side of every dock, maybe favor the shade side, and see what happens. You know, they're real easy to throw. They're heavy bait. You need a big stout rod. Usually throw it on 17-pound test at least, maybe 20. You know, you throw it up to the front, let that thing sink down, and you can either reel it real slow, and that gives it a big wide wobble. You can kind of quick twitches with the reel, start, stop, and now get it to twitch real darty, you know, or you can just, you know, vary it. Just reel it, stop, reel and stop, and when you stop it for a couple, 3 seconds, it'll glide. And sometimes that's what it takes, especially if it glides under that dock, and then it'll pull some big fish out. So that's a big fish bait. Obviously, other moving baits that I wouldn't overlook. That's definitely to cast at least some checks. It's just a big swim bait. This is just the Kitech 4.5. Looks just like a shad. It's got that purple glimmer to it. And I just rig it on, I believe this is a Picasso swim bait head. I like it because the line tie comes straight out of the nose, keeps that thing going nice and straight, instead of one that comes and turns 90, which is totally backwards for a swim bait. You want the one that comes straight out of the nose, good stout hook. This is probably a 5/0 hook, and you can just run this like a spinnerbait, chatterbait, anything. Just throw it up the bank and just steady reel it, twitch it, stop it, you know, reel it, speed it up. You can throw it alongside docks, off points, even back on flats. Just cover some water with it. Really good choice if you just want to also cover water. You don't fish a lot and you just want to throw something that's going to catch them. This will definitely catch some fish, and it will actually, it can catch the one that wins the tournament. So that's just a big 4.5 Kitech, great bait. You know, other little baits, obviously a chug bug, a spook. If you're fishing around beds where you think beds might be, you know, you throw that chug bug past the bed, pop it pretty quick up to the bed. Same thing with the spook, work it real quick up to the bed, around the bed, over the top of the bed, and stop it and let it sit there. Just kind of quiver your rod, let that thing vibrate up there, and then start working again. Sometimes it takes, just like other moving baits, if they don't see it as a threat the first couple times, by the time you throw it back there 6-8 times, they finally get tired of it, and they're going to come up and hit it. So, you know, that would be a good choice if you're seeing bed fish and you want to try to get them to come out, pull them out away from the docks or out away from the cables. If you got one like spawning under a cable, a lot of times I'll throw a topwater, either a buzzbait, spook, chug bug, and I pull it over it and try to get them come out away from that cable so I don't have to hook them and fight them around that cable. So big bait, spook's a big fish bait, so's a chug bug. You know, that's probably my moving bait choices other than the buzz bait. I didn't mention the buzz bait. Actually, this morning I caught several on a buzz bait, and I'll do that kind of with a buzz bait. I like it as a kind of a search bait in the spring. You know, you can start on Main Lake Point, go all the way back with it, and go behind these docks, up by the bank, different rock sizes, and you're just working this and running it real slow, but these fish will come up and show themselves. Sometimes they'll just come up and headbutt it. Sometimes they'll take it in. Sometimes they just slurp on it, but they'll at least show themselves, and then that kind of shows you where to slow down, and then maybe throw some other bottom baits. You know, and if you're getting like today, our bite was definitely not necessarily Main Lake Point, but it wasn't in the backs. It was kind of mid, I'd call it a staging bank, a little bit steeper bank. It comes out, you know, pretty shallow and then drops off. Bigger rocks. It was basketball size, between shelfy rock and basketball size. More of a staging bank, I'd call it. You know, not necessarily going to spawn there, but they're getting closer, right next to where they're going to spawn. Especially this weekend with a little bit of a cold front and all this activity. Some of these fish might hang out and just stage for another few days before they head in. I throw that on braid, 50-pound braid, because you're throwing over these cables, around these cables, under these catwalks. A lot of area that if you do catch one, you're going to have to hoist them over a cable before he gets wrapped up in it. So buzzbait, definitely a productive bait for big fish all the year, and especially the spring, and of course in the fall we all throw it. So now bottom baits. Bottom baits will probably start with something similar, like for main lake stuff, secondary stuff, staging fish. It's going to be a Carolina rig. There'll be a ton of fish caught on a Carolina rig this weekend, a ton of weirs on a Carolina rig. You know, pretty simple, basic setup on it. You need a good, pretty stout rod. This is a 7'3" Falcon. I've got it spooled up with 17-pound. You can run 17, 20-pound main line. Then I've got my 3/4 ounce weight, got my glass bead, got my swivel, and then I've got 12-pound tag line on here. About, you can see I got about a 3-foot leader. You can go 18 inches to 4 foot on that leader, kind of depending on the clarity. The more clear the water, longer leader I'll go. And then you put your hook. You know, you tie your hook on here, and then that hook size is going to be determined by what bait you use. I like the old Zoom lizard, just a 6-inch green pumpkin lizard. I'll chartreuse the tail, maybe the legs, make it look like a little bluegill maybe, or even the lizard, which are coming out, and they're a natural predator to the fish, and the fish eggs, kind of a threat. Got a lot of movement. 3/0 hook on that, 3/0 wide gap hook, and you're going to throw this on points anywhere you got a rock mixture. You don't have to throw it on points. Throw it on these banks. I like these banks that kind of got the bigger, you know, rock mixture, gravel mix, and pull it off, you know, from 2 foot of water, pull it out until it rolls off. And a lot of times where it rolls off in that little deeper water, that's where these big females stage up, hold up, until they go in and do their thing. Especially in a little cold front condition, they may back off and hang right on that break, and just wait to pull up. You know, that's a great, extremely good way to cover a lot of water with Carolina rig. You know, you're throwing it out, it sinks to the bottom, and you drag the thing. You pull it, you reel back up, you pull it, and you're covering all that water from shallow to deep. It's really effective. The bites are easy. You feel the bites. Either you quit feeling the bottom, or that thing pops. A lot of times they'll pop it and they'll take swimming off on it. Just give it a good long sweeping hook set. You know, and it's just a very productive bait. Other baits I throw on it, which that's another thing with it. You can really switch up your baits on a Carolina rig. You know, that's kind of my go-to. But other baits I really like to throw on it would be like a full-size brush hog from Zoom, your mid-size brush hog, Crocodigator swamp bug singer. It's already won the bass once, Carolina rigging, but you see it's a big bait. You can put a 5/0 hook in that. It's got a lot of action, a lot of movement. You can kind of pull this, and that tail moves and bumps along the bottom. They might think it's a big shad, maybe a big bluegill, maybe some sort of critter, but you get that, throw that on the same deal, maybe through one of these little deeper beds. You know, Carolina rig, you get some of these deeper beds that might be 8 foot here, and you drag that through it, and when you stop, and then when you start again, and that thing rolls and gets into their bed, they can't stand it. They're going to come over and grab it. So swamp bug seniors are great. And then I'll kind of go the opposite way sometimes, and Carolina rig something a little more finessey, like the Crocodigator F-bomb. This is just a small little sneaky bait. You know, it's this is a green pumpkin. You can see the tentacles on the side. It's got some real good flappers that kick a lot. This just kind of glides through the water as you're pulling it. And them legs kick, and it's just a little bit smaller creature. Probably throw down a little 2/0 wide gap hook, but that's very productive. Any of these little creature baits like that, you know, I like the Reaction Innovations Sweet Beaver. That one's a good one. It just kind of glides through, kind of bulky bait. The Missile D-Bomb is a good one. You know, any of those baits, just kind of switch it up, see what's generating some bites. You know, other bottom baits, obviously the jig today, the best fish came on jig. He was pushing, I don't know, 4 3/4 probably. Just a little 3/8 ounce zapper jig, Ozark crawl, green pumpkin red flake ring crawl on the back of it. Very subtle, 3/8 ounce. You know, you can throw heavier jigs. I kind of like the light one. I want it to fall slow in case these fish are kind of hanging under these docks, and when you're flipping underneath these docks and it falls real slow, then fish a lot of times will follow that thing to the bottom. or it just kind of hovers down, lands in or around that bed. You know, you can work this thing on the rim of the bed, right in the middle of the bed, and try to find that sweet spot that sometimes gets these fish to react. You can work a bed several casts until you find that actual sweet spot that gets them to react, you know, and a jig is a perfect bait for that. And, you know, obviously you can get that jig back in there where you need to, under these catwalks, under these shallow corners of docks, you know, around shallow brush, what have you. The jig, big fish bait, even though it's a finesse bait or finesse size, it'll catch them. You know, other baits, obviously the Wacky rig Cinco, going to catch a ton of fish. I fished with John Neparetti this morning, and he was telling me he had some big ones on it just a few days ago. You know, they kind of get like everything, they go in different moods, but this little thing is real subtle. It's got tons of action. You see, rigged like that, it's got all that action, and all you got to do is skip this thing in there. You know, it's set up on a 7-foot medium heavy spinning rod and reel. It's got 20-pound bright yellow braid, and then I got 10 or 12-pound fluorocarbon leader on that thing, and then I've got a number 1/aught owner sickle hook that I use. And then, you know, you can see, you find the center of your Cinco and hook it right through the middle. You can also use that tool with the those little O-rings, which works good to conserve your baits, but I don't know what the deal is. I'm just kind of a little old school. I like just rigging it right through the bait myself. I think it gets a little better action. The hook is the opposite way with the ring. You got the hook going with the bait instead of the opposite way of the bait. So when they grab this whole thing, that hook's up like this instead of with the bait. I don't know, I think I get a better hookup when I rig it like this. So that's why I rig it like that. You know, as far as where you're gonna put it, early morning, you can just go down the bank. You know, pea gravelly mix, chunky stuff, anywhere you think they might be hanging. If you have a couple show themselves on that buzz bait, this is a great follow-up bait. When that fish comes up and swirls, just take this and skip it right in there where he was at, and you're gonna catch that fish. You know, it's the best thing about this rig is the way